From Screen Junkies Studios in the heart of Los Angeles, this is Screen Junkies Movie Fights. Now your host, Andy Signore.
Nope. Greetings, Screen Junkies. Welcome to Movie Fights. I'm not Andy Signore. I'm Kristian Harloff, and I'm here to judge the epic face-off. It's WrestleMania 3, Andre the Giant versus Hulk Hogan. It's Dante's Peak versus, what's the other one? Volcano. There you go. They know already. You got Armageddon, Deep Impact. It's going to be an epic battle here. It's CinemaSins versus Screen Junkies. And I cannot wait. As a fan, I cannot wait to watch this. Here are some of the battles we have going on tonight. You got most sinful movie ever appropriate. Best Pixar movie. We're going to pitch your Spider-Man introduction, and there's a lot more. So here's how it works. If you're brand new to the show, on YouTube, click the bottom right. You zoom into any fight that you want to see. Just go and do that. Make sure you check out the RSS feed, subscribe, rate, and review for iTunes. And without further ado, let's introduce the gladiators today.
Today's fighters are representing CinemaSins, Jeremy Scott and Chris Atkinson, first-time fighters. And representing Screen Junkies, Honest Trailers creator Andy Signore, and undefeated Movie Fights champion Dan Murrell.
My combined record really screwed you there, Dan.
That 0-2. Yeah, the champ has a blemish, finally.
I apologize.
Let's talk to CinemaSins here first. You got Jeremy Scott and Chris Atkinson. Guys, now, everyone obviously knows, we know you now for CinemaSins. Now, as far as, Jeremy, you have a book now, The Ables. Can you tell us a little bit about that before we get into the battle?
Sure. It's a book I wrote before CinemaSins was even in existence, and now that we have this platform, I've decided to put it out there. It's about 12-year-old disabled superheroes. The main character's blind but has telekinesis, and so they all are sort of hindered in using their super abilities. And the story's basically just a coming of age, learning how to become heroes with those disadvantages.
Is it Amazon?
Yeah, it's on Amazon. It's everywhere. It's in Barnes & Noble. It's Kindle audiobook.
Well, check that out, guys. It's called The Ables, and like I said, you know them from CinemaSins, and they're here to battle the Screen Junkies. It's the guys. It's the champ. It is the man who put it all together. Andy and Dan, guys, are you excited for this fight? Or
This
what?
is, I mean, I'm just excited for someone finally on the internet to see Honest Trailers and Everything Wrong With are made by different people. Can you believe it?
There's not a mirror.
I don't know if you guys get that comment, but do you get Honest Trailer requests on your channel? Because we get a lot of CinemaSins requests on our channel.
And also, you know, as Dan is here, on the Dan cam today, it's actually going to be the fan cam today, and it's Britt Fofana is here joining us. What's up, Britt? He's going to be our fact checker, going to tell us what I'm doing wrong. And speaking of that, I'm here as an impartial judge, and I have to say that I'm actually, thank you, Andy, for having me come on in and doing this.
Hey, I mean, we all thought we can't have a Screen Junkie host this.
No.
That wouldn't be fair. So we felt like you would be a very right in the middle fan of both and not want to
Absolutely. These guys
tarnish your image.
No, and I get it, and I will be impartial. These guys have been nothing but nice to me, and I remember that battle that we had with Amy Nicholson, and yeah, I think I should have won that.
Oh, man.
Totally kidding. I am here to be impartial. It's going to be a lot of fun. Like I said, I'm a fan of both of these guys, so I'm super excited to get going. Now it's time. Let them fight!
Now let's do this!
This is where we fight!
Fight! Fight!
All right, let's get going. First of all, JTE, let's get it going, Butter. Butter? Call you Butter for the rest of it.
Butter? That's
his
relevant.
nickname. I just gave him a nickname. He's going to be Butter. There you go, JT.
Speaking of butter, though.
All right, come on, Butter. All right, so late breaking news. It looks like Asa Butterfield from Ender's Game will likely be our next Spider-Man. First of all, are there any general thoughts?
I like it.
Yeah, it sounds
Yeah,
like it.
I think generally everybody likes that.
Okay.
If we're not going Miles Morales, which I can't understand why we're not, I think he's a good choice.
Yeah.
Different look than we've seen. You know, instead of casting a 30-year-old actor
He was
to play
great
an
in Hugo.
18-year-old Spider-Man.
Oh,
Yeah,
he's
it
been
was
solid in everything.
So generally everyone's pretty happy with that. And because what Kevin Feige is saying that they were going to put him, I mean, look, Peter Parker was 16 years old in the comics anyway, so it makes sense, and it's going to be a nice dynamic to have him against Tony Stark and the rest.
So clearly no fight there.
No
Yeah,
fight
no
there.
fight there.
But at Movie Mike 80 asks, the fight number one here. Pitch your dream Spider-Man introduction scene to the MCU. Let's start with our guest today, CinemaSins. All right, guys, what do we got?
All right, I'll go ahead and take this. I don't know when they're planning. Are they planning to do this in Captain America?
It sounds like it.
Civil
Okay.
War is
All right.
the theory.
Okay, so I think whatever melee is going on screen, it should be like somewhere late in the movie, the big melee, everybody's fighting and everything. Spider-Man just comes on in. We haven't even been introduced to him yet. He's just the guy coming in, and it's Spider-Man, and everybody just claps and cheers in the audience because we don't need any introduction to this character anymore. He's just coming in, and he's just being Spider-Man and fighting, and that's what we want.
No setup at all.
No setup. I mean, I think we're a little in agreement, but
Kind of.
Slight adjustment, right?
difference,
I
yeah.
think there should be an introduction, and I'm taking. We've conferred, but to me, it's you got to introduce Peter Parker, and the West way we thought we introduced Peter Parker first before we established the suit is he's like an intern for Tony Stark. Like he's that smart kid who would do it anyway, and I feel like he thinks he's infiltrating Tony Stark's, Stark, whatever. Tony clearly knows it's him and is playing along because he wants him on his side. We get a little bit of Peter Parker. We don't know it's Spider-Man. It's not confirmed to the audience. But then later, when Cap and Iron Man finally have that sort of throwdown of whatever triggers that fight, which is clearly what it's about, suddenly Captain America throws that shield. It's caught in webbing. Iron Man throws a black. What's going on? And then we see Spider-Man in all his glory, sort of, hey, Ice Pop, hey, Shield Head, stop ruining my city. What are you guys doing? Like, to me, he then becomes the perfect one everyone knows, who's the cocky kid who's going to sort of try and, stop this. What are you guys doing? And they're going to both see Captain, I think, Iron Man, his strength, and want him on their side as they team up to sort of build their separate armies, as I imagine that story will do if it's based from the comics. And to me, that's an awesome way to sort of introduce him.
Okay, well, there's a setup from these guys as far as do you guys have any retorts on that one?
I don't want him to be a damn intern. It's just like Gwen Stacy in the Amazing Spider-Man movies working at Oscorp again. Like, I like everything at the end. Like, we're on the same page with that. I think he should just come into the battle. I just don't want any of that intro. And I honestly would rather see Spider-Man introduced before Peter Parker. Okay. Just my opinion.
Yeah, I think that, we thought it was important to establish Peter Parker as a character because you can connect to the actor a little bit before Spider-Man himself comes in. I think our big difference is you're kind of inserting him into the big melee at the end, and ours is probably a third or halfway into the movie, and it's Cap and Iron Man's first one-on-one clash. And Spider-Man's the one that breaks it up, kind of like how Captain America broke up the Thor-Iron Man fight in the Avengers. And then part of the movie becomes about, they're against each other, but it's kind of an interesting dynamic because they're both kind of trying to recruit this kid, but they're against, this who's he going to be with? Is he going to be with me? Is he going to be with Iron Man? And it's kind of this kind of back and forth with them, which we know that Evans and Downey Jr. can do, right. And they're both kind of trying to recruit this kid, and Spider-Man's just kind of stuck in the middle. And then he gets a chance also to be kind of a wisecracker because he's not allegiant to either one of them yet. And it seems like a fun intro.
I get what you're saying. You don't want to be an intern. Maybe intern's the wrong word, but I think he does. Like, Peter Parker and Tony Stark need to have that I feel like he's the little brother to Tony Stark, and I think there is a fun dynamic there that I do want to see. And I think intern, or whatever you want to call it, Peter Parker smartly trying to infiltrate to learn more about Iron Man, because I think that would be the guy you would want to look up to and know, how is he doing this?
Isn't Iron Man going to be on the wrong side of this fight?
Yeah, but in the Civil War, Iron Man recruits him first in the comics. So I mean,
but they're so far off book from that storyline.
Totally, but he's gonna. I think you gotta. There's gonna be a picking of a side, and then like in the comics, I think there's am I on the right side?
All right, I gotta say I'm on the fence here, but I would say I'm gonna give you guys one last pitch here of why your version of introducing Spidey or Peter Parker first is the one we need to see, and then I'm going to call it.
Okay, it's time to subvert this introducing Peter Parker. We know who he is. We've seen 2 movies now where we know who Peter Parker is and everything. Let's just get him right into the fight, and then we'll introduce the actual actor later, and that's the best way to do it. And it's basically a nod to the fans that say, hey, we know who Peter Parker is. We don't need to know who this character is now.
I think you're doing a disservice to introduce. I don't want to see an origin of Spider-Man. We're in agreement on that, but I think with this new actor in this new universe, you gotta see him a little bit before he dons the mask, just because I think there's a little bit of establishation. I think what's nice though is he's already Spider-Man. To me, what I don't want to see is him be Spider. What are these powers? And I'm a kid changing. Like done. But if he's already calculated awesome Spider-Man, seeing Peter Parker, I don't think ruins that. And anything, it clinches and it makes it more effective when we see him.
Okay. That was tough. I don't envy you, man.
It's a tough job, man.
It's a tough job. Listen, so you almost lost me on the intern thing, and I was with him when he said, as far as I don't need to see him as an intern, he's running around. But I agree that there's parts of me that I just want to see him rush in and be Spider-Man first. You start off and because we know he's finally come to the MCU, and everybody's been saying, where is he? And then he shows up, and you're like, that's all I needed. That's Spider-Man. But there is something to the fact of you also want to see him be introduced into this Marvel Cinematic Universe with the characters we already know. And to see him not as an intern, but to have a relationship with Tony Stark up top going, okay, well, that's that Butterfield kid. That could work out. What is he doing? Oh, he's smarter than just this little kid that everyone sees him as. I kind of want to see Butterfield as Parker first, so I'm going to give the point to just on that one. It was tough because there is something fun to see Spider-Man just loop in there. But all right.
Ooh, I was nervous.
That was tough. Okay.
This is just like when I was in Little League.
Man, that was tough because
I was terrible in Little League.
I struck out all the time.
I did too. I never hit once.
All right, so let's get to battle number 2. Thank you, JT. Since we have our special guest here on Movie Fights, we have a couple of sin-specific questions. Now, the first comes from @TheSolidID. What is the worst cinema sin? Now, this is an overused trope or cliche that hurts a movie. Let's start with the guys here.
Well, there's so many to choose from.
Yeah.
For me, the one that I think is hurting today's movies the most is bringing back dead characters. It's nothing new. Star Trek did it with the Leonard Nimoy Spock. You had Gandalf, E.T., characters that have died and come back. But it's becoming an epidemic, especially in the comic book genre, which is what we talk about. We started with Commissioner Gordon in The Dark Knight. Oh, he's dead. No, he's not. And then the worst offenders on this are the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Coulson, Nick Fury, Loki twice, Pepper Potts, and then you got Kirk in Star Trek Into Darkness. And the problem with it is that when you set up this thing and it's becoming, I can't tell you the last time I saw a movie where a character died and stayed dead. And it's kind of ruining the movie experience because it cheapens what you're watching, because when somebody dies, it has no effect on you. Like when Nick Fury died in Winter Soldier, that did not affect me one bit because I'm like, well, they didn't kill him. And then, so it cheapens what you're watching because you have no real stakes on it. If the character is actually dead, then that impact is gone. And it retroactively makes movies worse. The Avengers is a lesser movie because Coulson came back, because that was the heart of that movie. That was the big heart moment of the Avengers. And now when you watch it again, you're like, oh, well, it doesn't matter. He has his own TV show now. It doesn't really matter. So I think that's the thing right now that's just killing movies for me, is like there are no stakes, because even if somebody dies, I won't spoil it in case there is a couple of people who haven't seen it, but when the character who died in the Avengers died, the only I haven't seen any conversation online saying like, oh man, it sucks, I can't believe they did that. The only conversation I've seen online is like, oh, how are they going to bring him back? So, or her. So I think for me, that's really what's just killing movies right now.
Okay. Guys?
For us, it's Deus Ex Machina, which is where you have a situation where the characters have run into a wall. They have no recourse, and they're going to die, or they're going to lose whatever they're going to lose, and something swoops in and saves the day. And this happens a bunch in Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter and all these movies. And in Harry Potter, we just got done with the last 2-parter and everything. They put so much Deus Ex Machina in those movies that it's to the point where you can't possibly fear for their lives ever in these. Even if you've read the books and you know who dies and everything and who doesn't, it doesn't matter, because these things always come at the last second, and it's always the worst stuff too. It's always bad guys doing stupid things, like they come in and they actually help the hero coming in. I saw this in Taken 3 the other day, where he's in the car and like there's been a huge crash on the highway, and then cars miles down the road come and crash into his car and help him out. I think it's the dumbest thing in the world when they help the heroes out that way. Either make the hero have an option or don't do it at all and just kill him. I don't care, because at that point Ex Machina is just taken over.
Okay, well, guys, what about their argument? As far as do you think that that's a problem, or why is killing off a character worse?
I think that Deus Ex Machina is nothing. I mean, it's been around since Shakespeare and the Greeks, and I think it's a storytelling convention. Yes, it can be annoying if it's done improperly, but I also think that if it's used correctly, like I get that it's cheap, but like say in Return of the King, when Aragorn comes in and that ghost army appears from behind him and they rush into that battle, yes, that's a huge Deus Ex Machina, but it's still really exciting.
Pretty badass.
It's pretty badass. So,
and I think what's even further, it's like what's more worse about Lord of the Rings to me is the Eagles are obviously a terrible thing. But what was frustrating is they used the Eagles like 3 times. It wasn't even like, because the Ghost Army was a variant of what you're saying, but I actually liked it. Whereas what I would complain more is like, why are they really had to do the Eagles again? Like, you couldn't have at least come up with a new trick to pull them out of danger. I think with what you're saying with the death stuff, it's like it's sort of a bigger, more important moment in the movie versus some of these, I think, examples you're showing, and maybe throw some more at us that we can fight back. But they're less important than these moments of the character deaths, which to me is so instrumental. And I think that's what TV is doing really well now in Game of Thrones and Walking Dead. The characters die and they don't get renewed, and you're like, this is surprising. That's why TV to me is starting to be this exciting, even more of an exciting medium than usual, because there are stakes where the characters can go. Whereas I feel like in movies, yes, there are guilty moments of that, but I feel like, and specifically with Marvel, like the stakes are even worse when you actually do kill a character. But oh no, we didn't.
Yeah, Groot's not dead. He'll be back. He signed a 5-picture deal.
Well, so these guys make a pretty good argument as far as the heroes and dying. Marvel is.
I don't think Aragorn in the Ghost Army is a Deus Ex Machina.
Really?
Because it's completely set up earlier in the film when he goes into that place and argues with them. Like, you're not surprised when he shows up with that army because it was set up. To me, a Deus Ex Machina is like the Eagles, where there's no setup, you don't know they're going to come, and they're just like, I'm here to save your ass. And so I don't think there is a good Deus Ex Machina. If you're a writer, you're going to set it up properly so it's not a surprise and it's not out of nowhere. As far as characters dying, I agree most of what you're saying. It's a problem. It takes away some of the impact. I think it happens more in comic book movies than in traditional dramas or action films. Chris?
Well, I think the problem with character deaths being a big problem is that we're doing a topic that's all movies. You're talking about Marvel and a select amount of sequels and stuff like that. If you're talking about standalone movies, this is not that much of a problem. Deus Ex Machina is everywhere. So this is your problem only comes from the fact of franchises and things like that. And if you read comic books and all that, that's always been a thing. Characters dying and coming back in new series and everything like that. So I don't see that as big of a problem as you guys.
This is a battle.
But I also think that like it's plaguing the biggest movies, the big blockbuster movies, and yes, of course, in a Woody Allen movie, someone's not going to die and then come back for the sequel. But I think that it's becoming something that's plaguing the big budget movies, which are the ones that I think look forward to the most during the year. And if they're a disappointment, they hurt us more.
Your plot tricks are. I mean, give me the drama where your Deus Ex Machina is ruining the movie, because I just feel like it is in the blockbusters where that's really over relied on the most. Like, it's like the Oscar movies aren't doing that. Like the indie movies, I don't feel like are doing that as often. Like
I think
they're
you'd
smarter.
find it in a lot more places than you think.
Throw me some.
I was going to ask, can you give a couple examples of some?
He gave you Taken 3, and that's not a big drama or a big
franchise.
These guys have given some examples though with the Marvel Cinematic Universe and some other movies here. Like, can you give me a couple more examples? Because you kind of hurt yourself here with that Eagles thing. So I want to see, you brought up the Eagles, and I think to me,
the Eagles is a one example, and to me they're reusing that same example.
Right.
To me, the Deus Ex Machina is not just Eagles; it's broader than that, right?
Yeah.
To me, what was annoying is the Eagles.
Yeah.
And then not only did they do Deus Ex Machina, they did the same Deus Ex Machina
Right. It's
3 times.
cheaply. Not
So to me, that's not just a fun Deus Ex Machina. That's writing in the Eagles and lazy.
All right.
Where it's like he's making a point the Ghost Army wasn't that fair, but give me other examples of the Deus Ex Machina where it's.
I'm looking through our list, Jake.
Well, let's start then. Why don't you guys then let's give
You want more examples of
I
death?
want your final argument here of why it's more of a plague on movies right now, the characters dying, than it is the Deus Ex Machina.
I think it's cynical, and I think it's cheap, and I think it's a way that movies think that they can wring out some cheap emotion from an audience without having to actually pay the price for that. Character deaths are the biggest thing that can happen in a movie, and especially in these big franchise movies. And when you play with that and you kill off a beloved character, and then I hear hammers. When you kill off a beloved character, but then you just bring them back, you're not only teaching people not to invest emotionally in a movie, you're teaching them that there are not going to be stakes in any future movies. And I think that as the more and more that it happens, the more cynical that people become, and the less that people are going to enjoy movies, because when they actually do kill somebody off, people aren't going to invest in it. And so I think it's very dangerous that way. Deus Ex Machina, I think, is a convention, but it can be used correctly.
Okay. All right, guys. Final statement on.
It can be used correctly, but when it happens 50 times in a movie, that's when it becomes a problem. And you know what? We may be hurting our argument not to be able to come up with a standalone film right here, but because it's in almost every single movie that you watch these days. So I think that just the fact that it happens, especially in your, we're almost talking about the same thing in some ways, because we're talking about something where we don't have any tension anymore about what we're seeing on the screen. However, when you use Deus Ex Machina, you're saying there's no recourse anymore, and you have to bail your characters out. And when you watch a movie like Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, all these things, they do it so many times that it becomes exhausting, and I'm just tired of it. And the death of a character, I mean, it doesn't happen as much as you think it
Yeah,
did.
that's the thing. Our problem happens more often than their problem.
You guys are throwing bombs.
I
but
guess
before
I just don't notice it as much.
Well, before I
So
make
used to it.
before I make the call, I want to check in with Britt here first and see these guys screw up any facts, anything we should know before I'm making this decision.
Just a little. So I had read that Kevin Feige had recently done a Q&A, and he said that character in the most recent Avengers film is 100% gone. So maybe that will start a trend of keeping these characters dead and buried.
Okay. Listen, I was back and forth on this because I do agree that these, especially the superhero movies, are relying so much on not only are we going to kill this guy, we have to bring him back because we already announced on the slate here in a couple of years they have to come back. And then as far as Coulson goes, and Joss Whedon kind of hurts your argument because he says he is dead. And from everything that Whedon's been saying is that character absolutely was crapped out, and in an alternate universe he might be dead. So, but I do see how it can become lazy, and there's just no stakes. So I get that. And from the fact that there weren't a lot of examples here for what you were saying, but I do understand it's the overall how many different movies you do see it. I think the reason why as hearing your arguments at first, I'm like, yeah, they do kill characters so often, but that's just the superhero genre. I agree with you guys. They do use this thing a lot, sometimes just to save a character because they have nothing else to do. Just because of that, I got to go with CinemaSins on this one.
Oh,
sorry, I had to do it.
Huh, guys?
It's just because it was more or less.
hot in here?
It was just because
I think it's going to be pretty close.
I think
No, it's just me.
Well, honestly, if you guys had more, if it would have spread out past just Marvel, then I.
Well,
I
I
think-
mentioned Star Trek.
It's
I
all
know,
right,
I know.
Christian. I'm not
just
fighting you.
I'm not. I'm just saying it's
I
for
think
me.
I
think it was the overall. It was the overall
Sure.
argument. Okay, JTE. Let's get to round number 3. All right, this is tough, man. This is a good fight.
I like it. I'm into this.
I'm into
You
it
guys
too,
are playing
man.
rough.
Yeah. Okay.
That's how I hope.
I'm just waiting for the body slam. Mad Max Fury Road. It opens this weekend, which is full of chase scenes. We know that. We've seen the trailers.
It's awesome, right, Guy? I haven't seen it yet.
Awesome.
Really good.
It's the whole movie's like one
one
big
big
awesome
chase
chase scene. It's amazing. So Jose at SSSSS Way asks, what is the best movie chase scene? CinemaSins.
You guys are definitely losing this one, by the way.
There you go.
All right.
The French Connection is the best chase scene of all time, and it's not just because we just casually say that and it's just a great scene or whatever. It's because that was the first time that you saw cameras on the bumpers and see that low angle shot of the cars going through there. The other thing is it's real. Like, they didn't even really get permission to do everything in that scene. Like, they had cops, but they didn't do everything that they were supposed to do as far as getting permission. So there's the scenes where the cars are actually nearly running into each other and wrecks and things of that nature are actually happening. Those are real things. Those aren't movie things. And so anything up against the French Connection is going to be, you're going to have a long way to go, guys.
I'm happy to fight this fight.
Nice.
I love the French Connection. I'll go on record and say it. The French Connection set the tone for car chases, like it totally did. But I've seen that car chase done better and a million times since then. That to me, it's great. It's a great car chase, and I respect it for being first. But that's all I can give it because I'm rewatching so many car chases. I think there are better practical car chases. Blues Brothers. I mean, even Ronin of recent. Bourne, Bond.
movies, yeah.
There are some amazing practical, legit car chases that I think took inspiration from French Connection. But when you watch French Connection, yeah, it's great. It's great for its time. But as we move on and see these things adapted and changed, no movie took the remixed and took the car chase to a new level than Matrix Reloaded. Now I know that movie sucks. Like, I'm not even trying to defend the movie, but these guys took this as a 14-minute sequence, and they took the potential that the Matrix had, and they took it, and it was the one gleaming moment we had of how cool this would have been had we really done the Matrix right. They took the money, it took 1 year to plan that scene, 7 weeks to shoot that scene. They built a 1.5 mile freeway of their own, the largest in history. 300 extra cars driving through all that to synchronize and make those patterns movement. 300 wrecked cars, real cars that they actually wrecked. Everyone thinks it's not practical. I watched it again, the behind the scenes. A lot of it, great. The guy jumping on the car isn't real. I agree, I get that. It's not real. Yes. But the car smashing and the cars flipping behind them, all real. Like, that sequence, I think, it's easy to say, oh, computerized, it's not real. That sequence is, but it's not only just the car sequence, which was amazing because they set up this whole thing, freeway is suicide, don't go in there. Using the rules of the Matrix in a car chase, it was awesome. I hated that movie, but I still left that movie excited for the third one because I was like, wow, there was some really awesome potential in some of those sequences. And the car chase specifically, where it's like the agents can then crash the car and then morph into another car, and there's a million cars around them, and it felt amazing. And not only is it a car chase, it's a hand-to-hand combat scene. There's some amazing fight stuff. Morpheus in the truck. And then even more than all of it, the bike scene, the Ducati with Carrie-Anne Moss going in the opposing traffic. She's not wearing a helmet. She has a dude behind her. She really drove that bike. Like, it's amazingly done.
All right. So we hear the argument here.
Okay, God, where do I start? If they actually went into the freeway in the Matrix with the rules of the Matrix, they would be dead in 15 seconds. In the movie, there's only 2 agents that are bothering to hop around in anywhere. There's only like 15 cop cars. That whole chase scene is shot. It's cut to hell. Basically, I can't make sense of it when I'm watching it, and I defend that movie more than anyone because I love The Matrix. But God, it's just full of inaccuracies and issues. When she jumps off the bridge with that dude, there is no fucking way she lands. Sorry, I said that. No freaking way she lands on that truck with the motorcycles because it's already gone. It's moving too fast. The way that they cut that sequence has always bothered me because they would splat on the road. What do you have to say? I'm going to keep rambling.
Yeah, the Matrix Reloaded is just fake all the way through it. Even though they did, it feels fake. I'm sorry, it's the way it's cut. It's the way it's cut, and it's the way all the special effects work on the actual stuff. Yeah, maybe they did some of the things real or whatever, but they didn't get as real as French Connection, where people could actually die while they did it.
Right. It was staged, it was practiced, and yeah, she really drove that motorcycle against traffic, but they were all stunt drivers, and they rehearsed it. And so I don't think the
French Connection.
I don't
French
think
Connection had stunt drivers, even if they did it.
Sure, no, I'm just saying you were making the argument that because she actually drove it, that makes the chase scene better. And I don't think it does. Well, what we're judging is the end product, and you yourself said the French Connection set the tone.
Yeah, well, but I think it sets the tone. That doesn't mean it's the best. To me, we've improved on that model even better. And rewatching that sequence recently, he's chasing talk about impracticalities. There's no way he's chasing that train and following it as long as he does through as many streets as he does. Oh, and how convenient that the oncoming traffic is as empty as it is for as long as it needs to be. So if we're talking impracticalities, it's even easy because that sequence, as real and great as it feels, it's ridiculous. He's not going to beat that train.
All car chases are ridiculous.
Exactly. Right? Thank you. So that's all I'm getting of it's all you have on this argument, in my eyes, is it was first. It was the first one that did it real.
No,
this
set
definitely
the tone.
Not the real.
It was not first. It defined car chases that people have been ripping off like Ronin for years.
They've been improving on them. They haven't been ripping
because
off.
They have better technology. Because they have more experience.
Best chase scene. I don't think he's even really chasing. He's just chasing to try and get the guy in the subway.
In the subway, yeah.
It's well done. I get it, but I think Ronin takes that scene and it just makes it even more intense. Bond. I've seen the French Connection chase better.
All right.
And I've never seen anything like The Matrix. And we are both nitpickers of movies.
Yeah.
It's our job to be. But I totally was sold. And as dumb as that movie was, when I sat and watched that chase sequence in Matrix, I was like, holy crap. Like, they really did. They took the time to craft something new and made it fun. And sure, there's things you could argue, but I don't know. I think the agents did. It was believable. There was 2 of them on the trail. They were there. They were zooming in when they lost. They were fighting as hard as they could. And I think it's just a combination of so many great sequences with spending money in the right way that I feel like we don't see as much these days of taking risks and taking things like that, which to me Reloaded should get the props.
All right, that to me, that's pretty much that's a final statement as well too. So I'm because Andy just wrapped up his final statement with why he thinks Reloaded is the best car chase. Now, give me a final pitch here of why absolutely French Connection is the one.
It's the one that's better filmed. It's the one that actually shows technique and like things that you want to see on screen. The low angle shot and everything. The Matrix I mean, they edit it so much to make it look exciting and fast, and it's not like that. So it's, French Connection wins out based on just the fact that they actually went through and tried to make it look real, and it was real.
I mean, I know you're trying to wrap this up, but I think that's unfair. Like, they built a freeway to make it real.
Okay.
So to me,
make the chase better.
It's not all computers. It's definitely practical.
That point was made earlier. That point was made earlier. Absolutely. So I'm going to make a call here, but Britt, now there's a lot of facts here running around about stunts and stuff
Poor
like that.
Britt.
Yeah, what do we got?
He's right. They did build it, and it was destroyed after the movie was finished shooting, and it took 3 months to film that sequence. And it says that for the French Connection, the director actually shot most of the chase scene because the camera operators were married and had kids, and he didn't have any, so I guess.
William Friedkin is insane.
Okay, look, French Connection is one of my favorites. That scene, you guys are absolutely right. It started the car chase. It really did, and the way that they shot it. I know. Well, yeah, you didn't make that point though.
It's not over.
That's true. But it also, and then you have movies like Ronin that it set the way for. It really did. And then you have a movie like Reloaded, which is the movie itself. But we're not talking about the movie itself.
Right.
We're talking about the car chase. We're talking about what is the greatest car chase out of the two of those. Your guys' points as far as they edited it together. I mean, there's lots of movies that edit things together, and then it makes it a great car chase. The fact that they did build it out, and even with it's not realistic, obviously, but we are in a movie here, and with movie editing, I never in a million years thought that I'd be comparing the two movies at all.
I know, right?
And you look at it, the arguments here as far as what the better of those two chases are, not what came first. I gotta go with Screen Junkies on this one. I just think, and it's not.
I want to go on record. I care more about the fact that you just awarded Matrix Reloaded over French Connection than I do about losing the point.
It killed me on that. But it's just
People at home. What's going on?
The arguments and the points for that particular argument. These guys made a great point of how it was set up.
This is the same show where the Muppet movie beat Superman the movie.
Yeah, no,
Jackass.
Jackass.
movie,
Right.
sorry.
And those points. It's a matter of the points. And I just thought for this particular argument, the Junkies made it better. All right.
Now it's getting really hot.
It's getting
I
dirty.
was worried there, I'll be honest.
It's getting dirty.
I'm actually worried now because I just want to point at Matrix Reloaded.
So
anything can happen.
Welcome to the Thunderdome.
I'm in my head going, I'm going to give a point to Reloaded?
Yeah, you're going to live with that forever.
I sure am. All right, let's get to the next one here, JT. Brad Bird, the director of the upcoming Tomorrowland, just announced this week that The Incredibles 2 is going to be his next film. There have been a ton of great Pixar movies. Connor Thurston at Pyro Badger asks, what is the best Pixar movie? Screen Junkies.
Well, look, they knew we luckily we had nicely told each other what we're gonna the other person's arguments ahead of time, just because we prepare this show and we knew theirs, and so we offered our answers up ahead of time. So I know what their pick is why I'm bringing that up, because I'm doing what you did. There's no comparison on this one. Yeah. To me, the best Pixar movie isn't their choice at all. It's which Toy Story movie is the best Pixar movie. And so that's just the argument. I can go so deep into it, but it's really, I can go through it. The one I'm picking is Toy Story 2. And the reason I'm picking Toy Story 2, Toy Story 1 is the OG. It set up the characters, but it's a buddy movie. It's a road trip movie with amazing characters. It put children's movies in a whole new territory. It made it smart for adults, good for kids. Pixar just was born out of Toy Story. But Toy Story and Toy Story 3, which a lot of people think is the best, it's a great film. Technically, probably the best one. Amazing story. But it's borrowing so much from 2. And its finale is just so built up on nostalgia, where 2, to me, really found its stride and became the best Toy Story. it's as good an adventure as one. It introduces so many amazing new characters: Jesse, Bullseye, Zurg, Barbie, Mrs. Potato Head, etc. But it brings the series its first true emotion, because whereas one is this adventure road trip movie, two is like an existential movie where Buzz is realizing he's a toy. That's part one. It's a great story. It's a really fun spin. In two, they realize not only are they toys, but they're going to be put away someday. Like he gets ripped, and Andy doesn't bring him to camp, and they suddenly realize, wow, we are toys, and toys don't get played with forever. And the whole movie is Woody gets this opportunity, like, do I want to be displayed and honored forever, or do I want to go have another couple years with Andy? And it's so touching and true and amazing. Add to that the most emotionally amazing scene, I think, in any maybe next up, but definitely in the Toy Story franchise, is that scene with Jessie. The When She Loved Me scene is the most crushing, beautiful, amazing sequence ever, because everyone will say, oh, Toy Story 3 has the best emotional moment. They're holding hands in the incinerator, and it's how touching. They're not dying. They're not going in the incinerator. That's not happening. They're going to be left off happy ever. Jessie was left in that damn box. Jessie was left for dead. And that scene is unreal. That moment, that song, you see her play, and then she falls down, and she's under the bed, and she's gathering dust, and the makeup rolls along, and then she's there for however many years. And then Emily reaches in and finds her again. And then there's that moment of you see him driving, and Jesse's next to her, and Jessie takes that one little moment to smile and hug her one last time, and then is put in the box. I mean, I'm getting shudders and tears just even thinking about it again. It's brutal, and it's amazing because we've all done that. We've all put our toys away, and that's why Toy Story 2
Before you start crying, I want to give the guys. Okay, guys, what's your movie?
There are 5 or 6 Pixar movies better than Toy Story 2, and 2 of them start with the words Toy Story. That's not even the best Toy Story movie.
Oh, I will keep going.
The Incredibles is the best Pixar film, and it's arguably the best superhero film ever made. It's technically flawless. It touches all the emotional beats that you're talking about, and more. It's action-packed. It's funny. The weighted moments actually have weight. Brad Bird is a god. He's done nothing but make A+ movies since he started directing. Iron Giant, The Incredibles, Ratatouille, and then Ghost Protocol are all A+ in my book. But I don't want to use his other movies to prop this up. But God, Toy Story 2 isn't even the best Toy Story movie. Just because Jessie made you cry does not mean that movie is better. There's a whole section in the middle of that movie where we just ignore all the toys that we love from the first movie, and we go over and hang out with Kelsey Grammer for a while. And
well,
you're
those
crazy.
Are toys. That's toy, and that I'll go respond to that, but that's not true. I mean, either way, I will agree with you on one thing. Toy Story 1 and 3 are also better than The Incredibles. All 3 Toy Stories are way better than The Incredibles. Incredibles is a superhero movie. It's great. It's a fun movie. We've seen it a million times. They've borrowed so many things from it. All that stuff has been seen before. It's a great film. There are weighted moments. Nothing is as weighted as that Jessie scene, I would argue. Toy Story 2 does have the most emotional. And the only other Up is the only other movie, I think, in Pixar canon that also does it. But if we're talking emotional...
Well, that's
emotional
my point. Are we going to judge this
Toy
battle
Story
on
2,
what made you cry the most?
No, but Toy Story 2 has the most emotional, I think, hit than even more than Incredibles. And I think Toy Story 2 also brings together it's just something we haven't seen before with those characters. I don't feel like The Incredibles were that original. It's the Fantastic Four. It's a
You're arguing for a sequel. Don't talk to me about originality.
Well, I'm arguing all 3 movies, to be perfectly honest, but if I had to pick one,
cheating.
I've broke through why 2 is better than 1 and 3.
All right,
because I think they're all better than your movie, and I'll take that.
Just don't rip my movie's originality when you're arguing for a sequel.
Well, anyway, hold on one second. So Andy's clearly it's a lot of motion for Toy Story 2, and you're saying it's more of a rip-off from the first one too. But why is The Incredibles, because he did say as far as it being a superhero movie, why is The Incredibles more of an original movie? Just sell me on more of why it's original and what's so different, why it's the best.
Okay, the best I can talk about, but original, I mean, I need to know what the criteria is for determining the best Pixar movie. Is it the one that is the most emotional? Is it the one that's the most original? Or is it the one that is the best complete package, which is my argument for The Incredibles, because you can't poke any holes in that. The only holes you can poke is the Fantastic Four existed, and they borrowed a few themes. But they didn't lift anything directly, right? It's got a unique look and feel. It's the 60s and the future. It's got one of the best scores ever written. The complete package is why I argue for this movie. All the voice actors are on point. You're arguing for basically one scene. And that's an awesome scene. But that does not make the complete package. the better movie.
I think you're being unfair. I think all 3 Toy Stories have the complete package, and so to me, it's about which Toy Story is the best Toy Stories, and that's not what we're arguing here.
Well, I was going to say, you're changing the argument.
We're not arguing that, but I'm just, for the record, making it clear. I think all 3 Toy Stories are superior to Incredibles. I think Incredibles is there. It's a great film. I'm not disputing its greatness, but I think Toy Story as a whole is more original. If you were to make that one long movie, is what we're talking about. 2, to me, most people argue 1 or 3, but to me 1 is a fantastic film. 2 lifts it up even further. It takes what was great about 1, sure, it does part of it again. It puts them on an adventure, which is what 1 is about. Half the toys are gone in 1 as well. They go on an adventure, but the adventure means more this time. The adventure means more because Woody learns like what it's about to be a toy. Like, that's a serious drama, like underneath what's going on. Like, you really have this struggle of like, do I want to be put in a shelf behind glass and admired forever, or do I want to go be played with for that period?
And you're
such an not just emotional but strong storytelling and an amazing, just so many amazing things about why that film is superior than all of them. If we're talking about Toy Story in general, I think in general all 3 films are more original. It defined a whole.
Okay, you gotta stop arguing against my movie with 3 freaking movies. You gotta pick one and argue that. All right?
They all fall along to me in the same thing.
All the themes in Toy Story 2 that you're talking about are in the first freaking movie.
All right,
just because it's sequel doesn't mean it's not still original. It's with those same original characters.
All right, we're getting heated, and I like it. But I want let's bring it to the final argument. I'm gonna let the CinemaSins guys go first as far as.
Danny, neither guy.
They can tie it up.
Keep going, or you want to?
They can tie.
We'll
they can
see
end
what
it
they
up.
say.
They can end it up. So let's start with Chris here. So let's give your argument here as far as why, hands down, that The Incredibles is the best Pixar movie ever.
Well, I love how in The Incredibles all of their abilities actually matter at some point in the action, where, you know, most of the time in stuff like Avengers and stuff, we see them just kind of, all right, they're just beating some ass and that's it. In this one, you can see why, you know, the stretchiness of Holly Hunter's character is important. You can see, I love the scene. This is one of the best scenes in Pixar history, where the kid is running on water and he has that moment of just like, I can do this, and he's got that little giggle that he does. And furthermore, Toy Story 2, you said that it was the first time that there was any sort of emotional thing. How about Buzz finding out that he's not real? And they had actually.
How about the freaking zombie toys under Sid's bed?
Yeah, absolutely.
Those themes are all there. From
Buzz finding out
all different themes in each movie.
Buzz finding out he's not real,
themes.
and he's at a tea party because the sister like put him in there and everything, and he's just like he's like, that is devastating to me. The fact that he thought he was real and now he knows he's fake. So,
Dan?
I would say The Incredibles is fun, but it's a superhero movie, and it's as exciting as any other superhero movie. For me, watching it, I was enjoying it, but it seemed like, oh, we couldn't get the rights to any superheroes, so we're gonna make up superheroes with the exact same powers and just call them something different. Still exciting, but like the powers weren't even new. It was stuff we'd all seen: stretchy person, invisible person, ice person. I can run fast. It didn't seem that original as far as the characters. I think Toy Story, I know what you're saying as far as, like, Andy's not saying that there was no emotion in Toy Story at all before. What he's saying is that, like, in Toy Story, you feel bad for Buzz when he finds out that he's a toy. In Toy Story 2, it was the first time that the movie really came out and said, put an ice pick through your heart and said, like, no, this is you. So it's a difference between feeling sympathy for the character and the movie actually relating itself to you personally, where you're like, oh man, that's awful, and I've probably done that. And it's like, so it's not, you're involved. You're not just passively watching. You're actually involved and you're thinking. I think that's what he's talking about. So, yeah, best, I would say Incredibles is an entertaining superhero film. It doesn't really stand apart than a lot of other superhero films for me. Toy Story, I think, is a much deeper emotional experience, and you get more personally involved with the story.
And I think the Toy Story also, any of them, are more defined Pixar movie than The Incredibles is.
Okay. All right, Britt, before we move on, is there anything, any facts that these guys messed up or anything I messed up?
Nothing you messed up. It was just interesting to read that Toy Story 2 was originally supposed to be direct-to-video.
Really?
Yeah, and it has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. The Incredibles is 97.
Okay. This was a good one, man. This is really good,
This is a good one.
This is a good one because I actually really enjoyed Toy Story 2 very much, and I agree with you guys that the emotion in this movie really overtakes you. That scene, it breaks your heart when she's the fact that she's left, that she was a toy. You do feel, you remember having those toys as a kid. You go, oh man, I feel like a scumbag now for leaving all my GI Joes somewhere where I don't even know where they are. And then with you guys with the Incredibles, I have to go as far as what you're saying with the overall package. Brad Bird did something really special with that movie, and I don't think that I agree with you guys that it's just a superhero movie, because it could have been just a superhero movie, but they didn't just follow the beats. I think that scene that you said, because we're comparing scenes here, really, is what you guys were doing. You were saying, like, well, that scene was so emotional, and you guys threw back with, what about that scene on the water? That was emotional. I think as far as overall package goes and with the music, it seemed like more you guys were fighting for the Toy Story franchise. I know that you had moments of saying, well, Toy Story 2 was this and that, and what it has, it follows up. I think that because the originality kept coming back in, I do think The Incredibles is pretty original, and I think you guys made a pretty good case for why it was and what Brad Bird did, so I'm giving the point to CinemaSins.
Blasphemy.
You lost would have sufficed.
I apologize. I just think it was a better. It just seemed to me that it was more of a. You guys were just fighting on emotion, and then you used a lot of why the Toy Story series was better, and they just fought better of why their movie was the
So
best.
is Toy Story 1 better than Incredibles?
What's that?
Story one.
That's not the argument on the table. All right. The next fight, JT. Man, 2-2. Look at this. JT, did you fall asleep back there? All right, here we go. The next fight here. This is something. I want to be watching this. I can't wait to watch this on Sunday. There are a lot of versus movies on the horizon from Marvel to DC and beyond. Chris Nema asks, pitch your dream versus movie between any two movie characters. You guys are up.
We're first.
Dan's taking this one.
Any two characters. That's so broad.
Oh wait, sorry.
Oh.
You guys went first with.
Did we?
Did we?
Yeah, you guys went. You guys went
Okay.
with Toy Story.
I
2.
got so upset.
Any
I
two
don't
characters
remember.
is so
Yeah.
broad.
You
We're
got-
gonna let
Yes.
CinemaSins
I'm sorry. That was-
pick two before us.
That was my goof. You guys had Toy Story, so you guys go first.
All right.
You want to
What's our answer?
Two.
We
characters.
choose Sherlock Holmes and John Doe, the killer from the movie Seven.
Wow.
John Doe essentially gets away.
Sherlock Holmes?
Oh yeah, which Sherlock Holmes, from the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes, or just in general?
Does
Or-
it-
We didn't know we had to specify. Sherlock Holmes is
I mean,
genius.
I mean,
amalgam.
So just a character. Anybody could be playing him.
Yeah,
Okay.
Cumberbatch. I don't care.
Okay. John
you said
Doe.
Characters. So, John Doe basically gets away with his master plan. He's smarter than the cops. His own death at the hands of the cops is actually what he wanted to happen to complete his plan. So basically, he gets away with it. And so we are enamored with the idea of taking fiction's greatest detective and seeing if he could catch John Doe before the end. I want to see that movie now. Okay. Even though it would be a little weird with like the Sherlock Holmes outfit and the like old-timey stuff. But anyway, what do you have to add to this?
well, and just to the fact that in Seven, John Doe was caught through one of the it's one of the worst things about Seven is that they find where he lives based on what books he checks out of the library. And I've always hated that because it's not real detective work, and I can't believe that he would check out books that were so important that would
I'm gonna get
ruin
all the
his
serial
plan.
killer books today.
So that's I want to see somebody actually take him fairly, and I think those are two minds that would go well to clash together and everything, and I'd love to see that.
I was kind of left field. Those two. How about you guys? What do you got?
Well, I'm sure we'll tussle back and forth on. So I'll just pitch ours.
Yeah.
There's a lot to choose from, but we went with what would be more exciting than a showdown between the best spy in the U.S. and the best spy in the U.K. James Bond versus Jason Bourne. They're basically counterparts. There's nobody better at disappearing than Jason Bourne. There's nobody better at tracking somebody down than James Bond. I think that both of the series are kind of, Bourne is kind of declined a little bit. Bond is kind of on an uptick. But how cool would it be to see those two guys go against each other? Just the mind games and the outfoxing and outmaneuvering. Daniel Craig has a much harder edge to him now, so those fight scenes would be insane. And just like the cat and mouse, the globe trotting and the double crosses and the twists, like that would be so awesome. Like that would be so cool. And I would love to see Matt Damon and Daniel Craig just in a battle of the wits, the two best spies in the world, mano a mano. I would be in line at however early I had to get to the night before it opened to go see that movie.
Okay, let's have a rebuttal then. First of all, why
Jason Bourne would stab James Bond with a pen while he was sleeping in bed with a woman. I think I would love to see it. This is one of the funner fights that we're going to have because it's just, how do you argue against a dream pairing like that? I mean, if you take it the way you said, where Bourne's on the run and Bond's trying to find him, that could be pretty cool. But if they were actually fighting, Bourne would kick his ass in like 2 minutes flat. Because James Bond lives in a cartoony universe and Bourne lives in the real universe, in my mind.
If we were talking Roger Moore James Bond, absolutely.
Well, yeah.
But Daniel Craig, I mean, if you like from the first scene in Casino Royale, this guy can kick some ass, and I think he would be hand to hand a good match for Jason Bourne.
I think Matt Damon easily kicks Daniel Craig's ass in any fight, and it's just he's a little bit more jacked up nowadays, but come on, he's still James Bond. Bourne is kicking his ass. He was trained to kick ass more than Bond was. I mean, come on, Bond is more of a spy. He's more of a shoot. I mean, he's more of a guy who shoots than gets into hand-to-hand combat.
Well, I think we're arguing semantics. I think everyone wants to see that movie, but to me, my question, I want to see that movie because the reason John Doe was so great is because he outsmarted them. Like, to me, that was what was fun about Seven. So just having an even better detective track him down earlier actually sounds kind of boring.
I didn't say he would track him down earlier. I said I want to see if he could. I don't know how the movie would be different. I just want to put the best detective ever against that best serial killer ever and see what happens.
But you said that they tracked him down through the books that he checked out of the library. If he's stupid enough to check out books that schlubby Morgan Freeman in his trench coat and his fedora can track him down in a day, then I think Sherlock Holmes will get this done before lunch.
And I love John Doe. I love Seven, one of my favorites. But it's like the reason I thought that was so great is because they are sort of normal detectives against this monster who's so much smarter than them. If you put someone toe to toe with them, it feels more like Hannibal or something, like those Bad Science of the Lambs sequels where it's like you want your villain to be almost the hero in a way he is.
But are we bound by what happened in Seven, and what are we bound by what happened with Sherlock Holmes and their histories or whatever?
Christian's call.
No, I don't think you are.
Because I mean, yeah, John Doe did something really stupid, I thought, in Seven, and I hated that part of the thing. But if it's a real fair fight, I don't think that I don't think you're finding him out that way. And I think and if you were to rewrite it were a Sherlock Holmes movie, John Doe wouldn't check out books at the library, and that's how he'd figure it out.
I think you could also make the argument John Doe checked those books out on purpose because he knew that they might find him that way. But since he also walks into the police station to turn himself in as part of his own plan.
Well, that's kind of my point, is that John Doe's motivation is he's never been like, "You'll never catch me, Detective Holmes." Like he's a twisted, demented guy, and his goal is not to get away with it. His goal all along was to kind of torture this guy, and I just don't think it actually is one of the earliest examples of he wants to be caught because that's part of his game. So
another terrible CinemaSin.
Yeah. Okay. This one to me is pretty clear cut, but I want to get to Brit.
Enjoy the
first.
point, guys.
I want to get to Brit here. Everything's okay. Yeah. It's just the thing is there were a lot of you guys almost won me over back with. I don't know. You have John Doe. The way he's setting things up. The books. It was the book argument. At first, it was like, oh, well, he's just going to screw up again, and Holmes is going to find him, like Dan said, before lunch. But then you made a good point. It might be very interesting to watch Holmes and go after him to see what's he going to screw with, because Holmes is a pretty screwed up dude. In his own right. So maybe John Doe is going to mess with him a bit, and it's going to be an interesting movie to watch. So I actually became very intrigued with that idea. And then as far as Bourne and Bond goes, it could be a silly thing, and Bourne could just kick the crap out of him. But I think because the fact that you guys specifically mentioned Daniel Craig, I think more or less Daniel Craig has shown he's not that. He's more like a Bourne type Bond. It's pretty easy for me, this one. I got to go to Bourne Bond. I got to Screen Junkies. It was an easy. It's just a fight. If you put that movie out tomorrow, I would go see it as where I'd be like, oh really? Who's playing Holmes? Who's doing this? So, sorry about that. And by the way, it's going tit for tat. It really is.
It's like the end of Rocky 2 out.
But it's going, and it's not just like, oh, they get a point. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. This is the arguments. But that one, when I heard that's the movie I've always wanted to see, and the arguments were pretty compelling. All right. So I think this is Holy crap! It is. This is the last round before the speed round. Whew. We want to ask another sinful question in honor of our guests here. What is the most sinful movie ever?
And also, to chime in, I don't know if it's on there, this is also related to our Honest Trailer this week. Maybe they'll tease what they're everything wrong with this week, but this week's Honest Trailer is very full of sins. Anything else you'd like to say?
It's
clue that in, because I'm not saying anything, but...
It's a sinful...
A sinful.
Well, I also want to announce
Sinful.
that tweet came in from @TTMUang, who is asking what the most sinful movie ever. You guys started last time. Now you guys get to start here. Let's get at it. What is the most sinful movie ever?
Man, talk about a competition. It's got a lot of our category's got a lot of competition. We talked about it, and we were both in agreement that we've done 101 Honest Trailers now, almost. In my history of editing, we've been through 4 Twilight movies. We've been through 4 Transformers movies. We've been through so much. There is one movie that I physically could not finish watching, and it was M. Night Shyamalan's The Last Airbender. It is... atrocious. There is even in the worst movie, even God forbid in Transformers: Age of Extinction, I can come away with one 15-second moment that makes me go like, well, at least they had that. There is nothing. It is a barren wasteland, that movie. It is the worst thing. And if you want to talk about specific sins, nothing. The acting, the directing, the visual effects, the story, and the fact that it took a franchise that had a base that was so energetic and ready, and the trailer looked good, and they were so ready to see...
It's a great cartoon.
It's a great cartoon, and they were so ready to see it made into a great movie, and it just... They couldn't even pronounce the lead character's name right. That's how bad it was. So we're going with The Last Airbender.
All right, guys, that's a stinker. What do you got?
Of course, this is the most semantic argument we're ever going to have in this fight. Because how can you say that The Last Airbender is any good at all? But Birdemic is clearly worse than The Last Airbender because not only is the acting bad and the special effects are bad and the production value is bad. It's a movie called Birdemic, and it takes 40 minutes before birds even show up in the movie. It spends an entire 40 minutes developing a love interest that doesn't make any sense. In fact, the guy stalks this girl to get to the date, and she's like more than happy to date the guy. There's a sex scene where they keep their the same clothes on from the night before they're on in the day. The sound effects made my ears bleed in that movie. It's horrible. There's even a part where there's a bird just like climbing around in the background. He's not a part of the Birdemic, but he's just in the back somewhere. They have a whole segment where there's an environmental guy who comes in and just says, we're bad. The earth is, we're just not taking care of the earth the way we should. And this is the reason why the Birdemic happened. And guess what? Even this movie has eagles come in and save the day.
It's true. Wow. Compelling and a lot of examples here.
If I can chime in. Yours was bad on purpose.
No.
Yes, it was.
You're
That
insane.
guy
Okay, you've already lost the
selling-
argument.
You're insane.
That guy was trying to sell that movie,
okay, all right.
and I believe firmly was making a bad movie on purpose.
You believe the
Troll
wrong thing.
2 and The Room are worst movies that were done by people who thought they were making good movies.
So did the people making
Sorry.
Birdemic.
No
I don't.
way.
I don't.
Unless
I
you
don't.
can bring him in.
I don't want to break with my teammate here. But I've seen Birdemic, and it is not on purpose.
I'm saying now you've lost this argument right here.
No,
now.
you haven't.
Because the problem is you would have to be a genius to pull off a movie this bad and not give any kind of wink or nod that it's
made
bad.
by a guy who didn't know how to make a movie and chose to not make it good, is what
No.
I mean by that.
No.
And beyond that, it's so bad, it's funny.
You have to have a passion to make it this bad. You have to feel
I don't think so.
You have to
Ed
feel
Wood-
like
Ed
you have
Wood
to
did
feel
that.
like
Ed Wood
you're
made a
doing
career out of
something
that.
right. You have to feel like you're doing something right and still mess it up. This is the Ed Wood syndrome, where Ed Wood thought everything he was doing was perfectly fine.
Regardless of whether that debate is on or not, that movie's funny. That movie has funny parts that I
It doesn't
laugh
make
at
it
that
any
movie.
less sinful.
It
But
makes it
does
funny because
Last Airbender was $150 million spent on basically the same bad movie where this guy just did on a lark some poor movie. Airbender is so much more sinful because it destroyed an amazing source material. It destroyed like the opportunity to do so much more. And I would argue the acting's as bad. I would argue toe to toe that's on such a high level budget. You can't, like that's to me even worse than someone who doesn't know what they're doing. Like the fact that even a studio will let M. Night Shyamalan do it is also too sinful. Then nobody really gave that guy 10 grand or whatever to make that stupid movie. Like there's so many even greater sins and beyond just which movie is worse in Airbender that to me it's not even close.
Well, and here's what differentiates the two movies for me is that yes, they are both bad movies, but there's good bad and there's bad bad. Even during your argument, boy, did we have a blast talking about Birdemic. We just had a great old time. I watched Birdemic alone, and I had a blast. It is a terrible movie, but it's so much fun to watch, and I would watch it 50 times before I would ever watch The Last Airbender.
You don't think there are people that can
again.
have just as much fun watching The Last Airbender
No,
suckiness?
no one has
I
ever
did.
had
So
fun
depressing.
watching The
I
Last
had
Airbender.
fun. I made a bonus round of all the air kicks. I enjoyed the
let's use
shittiness.
that. Let's use that argument because how
I
many
didn't-
sins did Last Airbender?
I know
get?
that sins are hard to
Oh, the sin
quantify.
counts matter now. Now that we're on the Screen Junkies.
I know that sins are hard to quantify, but just ballpark. Do you remember what the sin count on The Last Airbender?
If you're gonna,
was?
if you guys obviously researched it, but there's a bonus round at the end of that, which
understandable.
multiplies,
Well, yes.
which is not considered part of the official sin count.
Well, I didn't know that because the count is 271,095,000. That's the sin
Right.
count on The Last Airbender.
I
don't
think
know
you
about
guys went
Birdemic.
and specifically
I don't know if
chose the
Birdemic-
movie
Oh.
that had the most
Oh,
sins
no.
on our channel.
Wait, is that the
so
most?
That you could throw that
No,
back.
no,
in
I'm
the
You're
serious.
admitting it's the most.
no,
No,
hey,
I have no idea.
I'll
don't care.
say
No,
this.
I just went to see. I was curious to see what you guys had counted up, and I
I'll-
said
The multipliers
I
throw
will
off
say
the
this.
argument.
Okay, well.
Bullshit bonus rounds aside,
we
Birdemic.
didn't make them. You
Hey,
guys
let
did.
him finish. Let him finish.
You're the ones bringing it up in the fight, and it has nothing to do with this. Birdemic on its own has way more sins than The Last Airbender does.
And it doesn't have a bonus round.
And
Wait, wait,
Hold on,
let him
bonus
finish.
thing.
Let
We
him
don't know
finish.
your
You guys-
rules.
Semantics aside,
But you guys have been talking a lot.
semantics
Let-
aside, only 4 minutes devoted to Last Airbender. You guys didn't do your job.
Again, you are basically making all these completely different arguments. You're trying to say, okay, well, that was like our 12th video ever. We
Fair.
hadn't made anything longer than 6 minutes
Fair.
at that point, and now we do regularly 18 to. If
So,
we did
all right,
Last
so
Airbender
fair.
today,
So you would have done it longer today.
absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I'll
All right. Let's
allow
get.
that then. That's
All
fine.
right. This is
Good to hear.
It's
I'm
another.
glad to hear that.
It's another back and forth here. I'm gonna give the CinemaSins guys here a chance to go one more time as far as because look, the one thing is that Airbender also had a lot more press to it. A lot more people know that movie, so it's easier to say, "Oh yeah, that movie stinks," as opposed to a movie like Birdemic, where not a lot of people have seen it. So I want to give you guys another chance to maybe people, myself, who I've actually never seen Birdemic. I've seen bits and pieces of it. Why is it absolutely sinful? Why? That's the thing on the table right now. Why is it absolutely the worst and have the most sins?
I just think it's grating to watch. It's one of those movies where the special effects are so bad and the sound is so bad that it actually physically changes you when you watch it. It's that bad. I think also, yeah, you guys had a great time listening to me talk about Birdemic and everything, but I only think that makes it worse because I think there's a point in time where a movie becomes so bad it's funny. You have to laugh, not to die.
Okay, final argument for you guys.
I mean, I would agree that these are both bad movies,
I think we all agree these are both bad
these are
movies.
both bad movies. And so, if I'm going to go with if I'm going to side with one, I've got to side with the one that I didn't enjoy watching. I enjoyed watching
I did
Birdemic
too.
because it was so bad, intentionally or not. I've watched it probably twice or maybe 3 times
I mean,
with
it has
groups
screenings
of
where people go
You have
see it
screenings.
to cheer it on and laugh. It's like The Room, and I would say same reason. The Room is not worse.
The Room is
either.
also worse than The Last Airbender.
The process doesn't matter, the product does, and I think regardless of the flaws in the product itself and the process of making Birdemic, the product is an enjoyable movie for whatever reason.
And this is
Last Airbender is not.
And it's not. The question isn't the worst movie. The question is the most sinful.
Right,
And
which
to
is why this is
me-
all semantics.
To me, it is a semantics argument, but there's a travesty of a sin that the Last Airbender franchise was that movie. So even if we put them on the same level, jink, you get the extra point for ruining an amazing opportunity to make that franchise a good movie.
All right, I'm going to call it as first. Britt, anything here that these guys missed with Birdemic or Last Airbender?
Not really missed, but Birdemic does have a bit of a cult following.
It does.
Yeah,
Okay.
it does.
All right. Okay. So this honestly was one of the hardest ones listening to, because I think you guys were arguing a lot on the fact that which one was worse. That's really what it seemed to be like. Even saying, "Oh, that's kind of a funny movie," as where I think you guys were really arguing more of like there was a lot of things what was wrong with Birdemic and how many problems there were as you're watching the movie, and how it made you ill for all the mistakes that it was making. And then we come back to the Last Airbender, to where I think at the very end here, when what you're saying is that it ruined a franchise. And it ruined a franchise through what they did with the acting. It ruined a franchise, but you could have made a great Last Airbender series here, but because of all the sins that it made, it possibly destroyed the franchise. It's a back and forth here. It's tough, but over all the arguments that I heard, I think that because gotta give the slight here to Screen Junkies on this one, just because. And honestly, I was Birdemic till the last. Had you not said at the very end there that the fact of being a travesty of a movie and that the semantics of what you guys are arguing for, the point was going
Sometimes
here.
it's
You
one way
won
to do
it
it.
in the last second there. Shoot, so the score.
Christian,
That was
this
tough.
has been a good fight. Can I do something to
Of
help?
course, yeah.
I think this has been amazingly fair and battle, and I want to thank you as a judge.
Thanks, man.
So I want to make sure everyone at home goes and subscribes to Schmoville.
Oh, thank
what's the channel?
It's just youtube.com/Schmoes Know.
As
Yeah.
a thank you, I'm calling out all of our fans. We want to crack him to 200,000 subscribers.
Oh, thanks, man.
It's not fair they're not out there yet. We are behemoths on YouTube. These guys are fantastic. Go subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. I'm making a call to action. Thank you for doing a fair
man,
judge
yeah,
here.
Thank you. All right, now we're getting into the speed round here. Oof, this is it.
Do these points count?
Yeah, these points count. Because what the score here now
Storm
is,
back and win it.
Give me,
4-2.
hold on. Sorry, let me.
Brett, what's our score?
Yeah, what's our
check?
score
So
check?
Screen Junkies have 4, CinemaSins 2.
4-2. Okay, so you guys could. This could be interesting. So we're doing.
So up to 5 points you
Yeah.
can win here. So it's
yeah,
not over.
and everybody's clear on the rules.
No.
Why don't you tell us
None.
again?
Yeah.
Okay,
I have
so-
no idea.
All right, so it's pretty simple. This is a chance for 5 more points to win the game here. Looking for fast, quick answers, short follow-ups. The faster your answer, the better chance you have of getting the point. If 2 players choose the same answer, the player who said it first gets to argue for that answer.
Oh, so it's like we're all going to go at once.
I think that the way we're going to do, I'll tell you how we're doing it in
So
a
let's
second.
do a quick
the
example.
the other player has to argue for a different answer. Now, here's how we'll do it for we're getting 5 questions here. So I think, to be fair, instead of having you guys kind of shout over each other, each round you can switch. So for the first question, you delegate who you want to represent
turns.
your
Yeah,
team.
okay.
Take turns.
So
Fine with us?
okay, so let's.
But if the question is, what better HBO drama, Walking Dead or Game of Thrones?
right.
Game of Thrones! If I said Game of Thrones first, I have to argue Game of Thrones. Then you have to argue Walking Dead.
right, or
I love-
those
Which
are
is on
HBO.
I love your
AMC.
example was a TV question.
I didn't know what he has.
that's right. That's good. Okay, so who's arguing for Screen Junkies?
I'll go first.
Okay,
Dan's going first.
going first.
I'll go.
Okay,
right.
Chris. All right, here we go.
Speed round music.
Speed round music.
Richards.
Here we go. What is the worst Tom Hanks movie? Dragnet or Turner and Hooch?
Turner and Hooch.
All right. Dan?
Dragnet's actually enjoyable in that campy 80s way. Dan Aykroyd is really funny in that movie, and it's Tom Hanks. I like his kind of mid-80s manic, like, it's kind of him at his best, and I like the old series. It kind of makes fun of the old series while also being its own comedy. And Turner and Hooch is Tom Hanks and a dog. I like Dragnet's way better. Turner and Hooch is just a guy in a dog movie.
All right, Chris?
Man, God. Dragnet. God, I haven't seen that movie since probably the 80s. I think the only reason why I would watch... Oh, God, what am I even arguing for?
Turner.
arguing
Am I arguing for Dragnet? I'm
Turner and
arguing...
Hooch
You're
over
saying why
Dragnet.
Turner and
Turner
Hooch is
better.
the better movie.
Turner and Hooch is the better movie is
Yeah.
because it's got to be way funnier, right? I mean, the dog and it's a dog, man. It's hey, you can't sleep in this room. That whole sequence, you can't sleep in this room. You can't sleep in this room, and all that. Enjoy the point.
I felt you drowning. I felt you drowning. Point to Screen Junkies.
Dogs are funny, though. He was close. Yeah.
All right, one down.
I love that movie when I was a kid, Dragnet. I don't know why.
Here's-
Are they all? Are they all going to have multiple choice? Because I almost expected somebody to shout something after you said Tom Hanks.
You should tell us if it's a choice or if it's before you say.
Okay, I will.
Between these two movies.
I almost shouted.
If I had been on that one, I would have
volcano.
shouted something.
Yeah,
out
they were
after
about
you
to
were
shout.
done.
I would have too.
That's fine. Okay. This will also be a choice.
So now it's you and me. Okay.
This is Andy and Jeremy. This will also be a choice.
Of two?
Yeah,
Okay.
of two. Who wins in a fight? Chris Evans, Captain America, or Chris Evans, Human Torch?
Captain America.
Okay. Let's start this time with Jeremy as far as Human Torch goes.
He's fire. He can fly. Captain America can just do one thing, right? Well, two. He's strong, and he can miraculously bounce a shield off of many objects and have it come back to him like a boomerang. But Human Torch has more superpower ability in a one-on-one fight. He could fly up and then smash down with fire. He could throw fire things at him. There's just more options. Captain America has to be up close to you to beat you.
All right.
I think what's his name? Not Captain America. Human Torch is just too cocky and would lose. Captain America is now. Current Captain America is smarter and strategic and stronger, and I think would be smart enough to figure out how to beat the fire and kick his ass.
I don't know. He went more on abilities there as far as you're just saying he's a little smarter. We don't know. As far as I thought that you went more on abilities. I'm going to give it to Jeremy on that one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Vibranium.
All right. That's two down. All right. Also choices here. We have two choices.
Dan and Chris.
Two choices.
Okay.
Dan and Chris. Both of these are on cable. Which do we watch? Paul Blart or Observe and Report?
Observe and Report.
Ooh.
I'm not gonna chime in. Who said
Half
it
a
first?
point to each side?
Man, I'm gonna give that one to Chris.
Observe and Report is the taxi driver that's funny. I love Seth Rogen in that movie. I love how dark it is. I love the little Aziz Ansari cameo in there where he says, why would I burn down the Chick-fil-A? That shit's delicious. I love all of that stuff. Observe and Report is so funny, and yeah, it blows away Paul Blart.
Can you argue for Paul Blart?
You got it, champ.
I mean, Observe and Report is fine, but it's so depressing. I mean, I watched that movie and I just felt so sad after it. I mean, Paul Blart, it's not the best movie in the world. At least you might get a chuckle. It's not going to make you feel bad about yourself as a person. Yeah, I mean, but given those two, I got to go with Paul Blart.
Yeah, I felt like you were reaching on that one. CinemaSins.
Who made that question? What would you rather watch, a good movie or a terrible movie?
It wasn't us.
Listen, you fought that well. You were really grasping at straws.
I don't know who did that, but I got a bone to pick with that.
What's our score here?
So for the speed round, it's 1-1.
But total, it's 4 to 5, right?
Oh.
There was we had three questions here, right?
What did you?
We did. So I think
5 to
So
4.
who won that last round?
the last
CinemaSins.
round we had two cinemas
Okay.
in the speed round so far. It's 2-1.
Yes.
Yes. So what's our final?
Total score is 5 to 4, right?
5 to 4.
Yeah,
5-4.
Jeez.
5-4.
There's two
Jones.
questions
Two
left.
questions
So
left.
there will not be a tie.
There will not be a
We
tie.
have tiebreakers.
Yeah. All right.
What's that buzz? There it goes.
There it goes.
is
Okay.
you, Andy, right?
This is also a choice.
this is me and Jeremy.
This is also a choice between two people.
Okay.
Who wins in a fist fight? Ripley or Sarah Connor?
Ripley.
Okay. Let's start with Andy.
Ripley's just been through too much, and I think over the years if we're talking Aliens Ripley, we didn't specify, but I'm picking Aliens Ripley. Aliens Ripley took down an alien herself. Sarah Connor had help with a lot of people, and I don't think has it. Ripley's going to be a bigger street fighter and take her out and be sneakier than I feel like Sarah Connor's a little calculated and relies on all the people around her.
Ripley needed a robotic exosuit to beat the alien in that movie, and you said fist fight. And Sarah Connor is jacked, and she's been doing nothing but pull-ups in prison for like 10 years. She's gonna beat Ripley in 30 seconds flat in a fist fight. If they're both on a spaceship escaping an alien, then maybe you got this one. But otherwise, Sarah Connor's gonna pummel her.
Ooh, man, it's just because of the fact that he did say fist fight, not overall fight. CinemaSins.
You're a fist fight.
Yeah, it was fist fight.
I'm gonna kill whoever did that Observe and Report.
Wow. All right, this is it.
Well, at this point, even if we lose,
This
we've
is our.
redeemed ourselves.
You did. This is our
Now the
last.
beauty of the speed round.
This is our last question here.
Dan. It's on
Giants, the champ now, going against the newbies.
Build
You
it up
could-
some
you-
more,
You
Christian.
could
Yeah.
not have asked for a better round here. This is
It's
it.
all on the champions'
Whoever
shoulders.
and listen, I think I've been pretty impartial here. So here we go. This is the end. Whew. Both of these, another choice.
50-50 one?
Both of these are on cable. Jurassic Park 3 or Lethal Weapon 4.
Jurassic Park 3.
All right. Dan, why Jurassic Park?
Well, we went first.
Oh, you're
last
right.
time.
You did. You're right. Sorry, Chris. Why Lethal Weapon 4?
Lethal Weapon 4 has Jet Li in it, kicking ass. It's got all the characters that you love from the other Lethal Weapons. Jet Li kicking ass, though, is the biggest thing. I like that better than Jurassic Park 3 any day, where you have, it's the same movie. Why in the world does this stuff keep happening? Lethal Weapon 4, I just go with Jet Li on that, basically.
All right, Dan.
They're both shadows of their former franchises. I would rather see a shadow of an exciting dinosaur franchise than a shadow of an aging comedy franchise. Plus, Jurassic Park 3 has one of the best moments in cinema history, which is a talking raptor. Alan!
All right.
Love it.
You talk about pressure. Both compelling arguments, both wondering. The fact that you said shadows of former selves and acknowledging that both they are, and it's got a talking dinosaur. Screen Junkies gets
Yes! Oh my God, that was too close.
Wow.
The talking dinosaur thread.
Talking raptor wins the day. I knew that would come in handy.
It did. But
I feel about this question as you do the observe and report question.
How about props though for that comeback?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That took us down to the wire.
I would not have wanted that fight any other way. Kudos.
That was an amazing fight,
Kudos to
guys.
you.
That was a lot of fun, and I just wanted to thank you guys, by the way, for allowing me to do this. Because as a fan,
I
of
think
both
Kristian
you
did a
guys-
good job.
Great
Thank you.
job.
Thank
Awesome
you so
job.
much.
Good job, Kristian.
Okay, so here's a couple of Twitter handles for you guys to know out there. You got Chris and Jeremy from CinemaSins. Obviously, check them out on YouTube, but check them out on Twitter here at CinemaSins. Dan and Andy from Screen Junkies at Screen Junkies. Britt Fofana, who helped us out on Fan Cam
Hold
today.
on.
Absolutely.
He's slow on the uptake.
Oh, sorry,
All right, there we
JT.
go.
Sorry, JT.
You have their
I
Twitter
should know
there. You should
Yeah.
know that. Britt,
no,
there you are, Jeremy.
There we go.
At Brit Banana. Check that out. Check out JTE at Schmoes JTE and myself, Kristian Harloff at Kristian Harloff. And like you said, please check me out on YouTube at Schmoes Know. Guys, thank you once again.
Thank you guys for
you.
coming.
Thank you,
Thank
Jeremy.
you, Chris. That
We'll
was a
have to
great
do
fight.
a rematch, yes?
We do.
We're going to set it up again. That
That-
was too fun to not do again
I agree.
sometime in the future.
And I'd love to hear. I can't wait to read the comments and see what you guys thought of the battle. Thank you guys so much, and thank you. And I can't wait to be back again to participate and get my first win.
Have you not won?
No. Sad. It's real sad.
All right.
Every podcast we put on YouTube comes with this kick-ass graphic listing all the topics your favorite Screen Junkies podcasters are talking about. If you click the topics, you can skip around and choose your own podcast battle royale. Go ahead, try them all. If you haven't already, subscribe to Screen Junkies on YouTube to join us for future fights. Or if you prefer to listen on iTunes, click the logo to download an audio version.